Good evening. I'd like to call this regular Board of Education meeting to order. Amy, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Suzette, can you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Burns,
Here.
Mr. Ustruck,
Here.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Here.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
Ms. Deal,
Here.
Mrs. Carr,
Here.
Mr. Sikich.
Present.
Mrs. Justum's excused, and President Lee is excused also.
Proper notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Does the superintendent or any board members have any modifications to the agenda?
I have no changes this evening.
Okay, seeing none, we will move forward to public comments. We would ask at this time, so before we get started, we'll read a little notice that we have here. The following ground rules apply for all persons attending the meeting of the board for the orderly operation of board business. These rules are not intended to deny any resident's right to freely express their opinion on the substance of the matters before the board, but are intended to maintain a respectful and safe meeting environment for all persons in attendance, ensure equal opportunity for all to view or participate in the meeting, and ensure the business of the board is not interrupted. All attendees are required to abide by the board policies currently in effect. For example, the face covering policy, which has been modified, and expectations in board policy 167, parent 3, public participation at board meetings. In addition, attendees are expected to observe reasonable decorum. Number 2, public comment is intended to provide residents with an opportunity to provide input to the board to take into consideration when the board is deciding on the matter. Those wishing to speak were to register upon arrival to the meeting. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes. Public comments should be addressed to the full board, not to individual board members, and not to other persons in attendance. Number 4, board members will not engage in dialogue with the participants. Number 5, comments that are abusive, obscene, profane, or personally attack another individual or staff member will not be tolerated. Persons who make comments that are abusive, obscene, profane, or personally attack someone will be ruled out of order and directed to return to their seat. Questions or comments regarding individual personnel issues will not be discussed in any open meetings and are to be redirected to administration or to otherwise follow applicable district policies and procedures for review. Number 6, conduct during any portion of the meeting that is disruptive, i.e. booing, hissing, clapping, or otherwise interrupts the business of the meeting is prohibited. Persons engaging in such conduct will be warned that if such conduct does continue, they may be ordered to leave the meeting. And in the event of a serious or repeated disruptive behavior, it may result in being escorted from the meeting or police involvement and possible citation for disorderly conduct. And number 7, once the public comment period is closed, the public is not entitled to speak during the remainder of the board meeting. Persons who do not comply with this rule and call out comments, questions, or interrupt the business meeting of the board are out of order and will be directed to cease. If the disruptive conduct continues or is more serious, the presiding officer may request that the disruptor be escorted out of the meeting, or it may result in police involvement and possible citation for disorderly conduct. All right. We will start with the individuals in person. If there is anybody in Zoom that would like to participate as well, please put your name in the chat, and we will get to that shortly as well. All right. First, John Molling. And just a reminder, please state your name and address before your comment, and you have 3 minutes.
I hope you don't start it yet because I've just got a question here. In the last meeting, it's noted in the public comments that I wanted to know if anybody in the district or any school teachers ordered the book from Ibram Kendi. The name of the book is Stamped semicolon, racism, anti-racism, and you. I didn't get an email about it. I don't see any answer in the notes about it. And I want to know if anybody ordered that book. And I don't want to be on 3 minutes yet, because I haven't had an answer to that question.
Well, a response will be sent to you.
No, you guys say in 2 weeks you will give a response.
Well, we do not engage in dialogue at this time.
I know you don't, but you say if we ask a question 2 weeks ago, you will have an answer for us by email or at the next meeting, which you did not do. So that's not my
If I
fault.
can,
Go ahead.
okay. We sent it to the email we have to you today.
Oh, good, thanks. Thanks. I looked all 2 weeks. And does it answer that question?
It does.
Okay, then I'm cool. Be nice to know, I don't check emails every day, so be nice to know that. That you do it a little earlier than that, like maybe Friday? Okay, give me 3 minutes. I just want you to know about the CRT thing. Jen Psaki, you all know who good old Jen Psaki is, the president's spokesperson. She said the other day, yes, that the president is in favor of CRT teaching. Last week, Randy Weingarten, if you know who that is, she is the head of the FTC, or AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. She stated about Monday last week, we do not teach CRT. Then she had a private virtual town hall meeting with Abram Kendi online for the meeting, and she said, yes, we must teach CRT. She blatantly lied. The leader of one of the teachers' unions for the United States of America and the other teachers' union had also said, we are going to teach CRT. Everybody says we're not doing it, and then they finally come out and they do it. They're lying through their teeth. And if we can't trust the boards or the people that run the boards and the unions, who are we supposed to believe anymore? They lied through their teeth. Period. You wonder why the people that you guys represent don't trust people that run this thing? That's why, because we've gotten nothing but lies. And I have one other thing I want to bring up. I looked online about salaries, and you need to update the salaries. It's for 2019. It should be for 2021 and 22. I got this for 2019. Found it very interesting. It says under here that there are 7 people that are quoted as central office administrators. Deidre Ream, Beth Kohler, Jeffrey Thompson, Jeffrey Borland, Adam Kengel, Ann Locke, and Christopher Miller. Deidre gets 125 grand a year, goes down to Christopher, who gets 80 grand a year, for a total of 755 grand a year. I want to know why there are 7 people that have a job description of central office administrators. My question would be, I would like to have the job descriptions of those 7 people, if they're still there, what their job description is, and see if there's any overlap. There's no business that would have more than a vice president, and I think, you know, if we look into it, I really gotta wonder if all those people are necessary, if they're still around. But $755,000 for central office administrators, that sounds a little bit overkill. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you. Jason Darling?
Good evening. 11037 West McGuanago Drive, West Dallas. Tonight I just want to touch base on the potential for the masks that are going to be coming up for the next school year. I know that you guys have not had a decision yet on it. I know that that's coming up. I just want to speak my mind, and I have 2 little printouts here that I can leave with you guys too when I'm done. But I'm speaking on behalf of myself, my 2 children that are within our district. Since last year, with everything that was brought to the table with the masks opening hybrid, we finally got to it where we had the in-person masks were required. Since then though, several studies have been done within the past year, some more recently within this past summer. I have one of the printouts here. regards to the level of carbon dioxide. For the younger adults and children, several results and research shows that they can reach up to 3 times the CO2 levels for allowed standards. Then you repeat this daily throughout the school week, week after week. Many of us have returned with summer and the recent mask lifting on the mandates. And with the further access to better information, a better understanding of the virus, vaccines that are available and have since plateaued now, I found out this week, we're at 51% nationwide. I understand the masks from last year. This year, though, I'm going to say that I disagree with the masks and how they're portrayed and the safety that they're said to bring to the staff and the kids. It's not fair to re-expose our youth to daily CO2 levels and possible anxiety for some of the kids and an early onset of even like pimples and other skin problems around their nose and mouth. I personally have had conversations now throughout the summer, throughout last year with teachers, staff, office staff, coaching staff, all within this district. And unfortunately, the common response is that many of them cannot go against the grain because of the decisions that you guys make, that they feel strong-armed. They also share the same opinion too, that masking themselves, kids, teens, and their players just seems to be out of line. I would encourage you guys to do better, check the other science, the updated sciences, and we have some new people here, so I encourage you to maybe be the change. Consider it,
Mr. Darling, you have 10 seconds.
all right. I'll skip real quick then. Basically consider it a second opinion, and look into the second opinions, because when you guys have something that's life-altering or a medical condition, we all go for a second opinion. I ask you, I encourage you to look at second opinions moving into the next school year and your decision. Should I just leave these with you?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alyssa Villegas?
This is my first time here, so I'm not sure if I have to give my name and my address, or do I just?
Yes,
Okay.
name and address, please.
Alyssa Villegas, and I'm at 2501 South Root River Parkway. I am Alyssa, and as bittersweet as it may be, this year my son will be starting kindergarten. I would like to preface my comment today by acknowledging the fact that I stand before you all with great privilege. I am in good health. My husband has been afforded the opportunity to work from home since the start of the pandemic. I was able to take the year off from my small business, and all 3 children of mine are alive and well. Others have not been so lucky. There is no one missing at my family's dinner table, but I know not everyone can say the same. As of recently, the Delta variant is making its appearance across the world, but more importantly within several of our own states, leaving our unvaccinated population at greatest risk, including children under 12 who are not yet eligible, my 6-year-old son being one of them. This past week, the CDC updated its guidelines by asking that schools reopen for in-person learning, but that masks remain in place for those unvaccinated. So I stand before you today and I ask that while keeping science and the proposed guidelines in mind, you require masks in schools until science proves otherwise, so that children like my son and all of the other children in his same shoes be rewarded, not punished, for the sacrifices that they have made for others throughout this past year, so that they may learn and thrive and socialize in person, something that my son did not get to do this past school year. I understand that what I am advocating for here today is not a popular nor mutual opinion amongst everyone. Some will find it personal, political, and offensive, and while I may not understand it, I respect it. I'm here for them too. Just like all of you, I'm tired. I want to feel what it's like to be carefree again. I want to worry less. I want to shed my mask and get back to what used to be normal. I want to see my kids be kids. But for now, I understand that mask wearing is what is necessary to get us all back to what used to be normal. I would also like to close my comment today by thanking all of you for your time both today and that of this past year and a half. There was no magic handbook to whisper to us how to parent, perform, or administrate this past year, and yet somehow we all got through it. So for all of you and any educators that may be listening online, thank you for showing up day in and day out, on good days and bad ones, judgments and praises. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, checking one last time in Zoom. Do we have any individuals? Oh, I'm sorry, we do see one. Jeffrey Brister.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Yes.
We can hear you. I just want to make a few comments. First of all, I don't like the idea of this critical race theory. I don't like the idea of children under the age of 18 being forced to wear these masks. As far as the mask situation goes, my daughter is in elementary school through West Dallas, and on regular occasions, she would come home with headaches, not feeling well because of these masks. When we're at home, we don't wear them, obviously. Go throughout the weekend, my daughter feels fine. Come Monday, she feels like crap again. She doesn't have any problems as far as allergies goes. So this is not a medical thing, this is a mask thing. I don't feel, the science says that these children don't need to be wearing the masks. I believe Mr. Dr. Fauci says, children don't need to wear masks, I think it's ridiculous. Come this school year, if my child is required to wear a mask, I will be taking her out of the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District. If I gotta set up a pod with other parents, I'm gonna do that. And then you guys aren't gonna get any more money. Your budgets are gonna go down. I don't know if you guys get paid through whatever, I'm just saying, enough is enough. I've talked to many parents, they all agree. Some don't, which I respect. I don't have a problem with that. Your child, if you feel like your child needs to wear a mask, so be it. Wear a mask, not my child, not my children, not my neighbors if they don't want to. These kids should not be wearing these masks. As far as this critical race theory goes, it doesn't need to be in the schools, man. This stuff was meant for colleges. It's not meant for grades K through 12th grade. It's ridiculous. It's racist. How would you like to live in a interracial family to where your wife is black and your husband is white? Your kids come home telling you that your mother or your father is doing something wrong. They're the racist ones. And this white privilege crap needs to be thrown out the window. We all need to just get along, move forward, and get concentrate on our kids. Let's get some good education. Let's get back to the basics, science, math, etc. That's really all I gotta say. I appreciate your time. I really, really urge you all to vote no on masks. Let's give these kids a chance. Let's give them their voice, because they don't have one. Thank you for your time. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, I see no other names in public comments, so we will move forward to our superintendent's report. Dr. Lexman.
Great, thank you, and good evening, everybody. We'll start with 7.1, which is the legislative update. So I think everybody's aware, but Governor Evers signed the state budget recently, okaying more than $2 billion in income tax cuts. He nixed a provision to update income tax withholding tables and a $550 million transfer to the Budget Stabilization Fund that Republicans had proposed. In his veto message, Evers wrote taxpayers will already see significant savings in the budget he signed, and nixing the update in withholding tables will not impact anyone's tax liability. Rather than seeing additional money in their paychecks, taxpayers will instead continue to see the money in their refunds from the state. He also wrote, the budget stabilization fund was already flush with cash, and the $550 million, which will now remain in the general fund, could be used to address gaps and shortfalls in the legislature's budget actions. And all Evers' veto message listed 50 changes he made to the budget. And during a signing ceremony at a Whitefish-based school, the governor also announced he's investing more than $100 million in federal funds in the K-12 education. And at the federal level, the American Rescue Plan, Homeless Children and Youth Funding. On July 6th, the U.S. Department of Education announced the availability of $600 million in additional funding under the American Rescue Plan Act for children and youth who are experiencing homelessness. These funds must be used to provide wraparound services for homeless children and youth so they can attend school and fully participate in school activities. Then also the U.S. Department of Education releases over $50 million to Wisconsin in ARP funds to support children with disabilities. The release was more than $3 billion in American Rescue Plan funds to states to support infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities. The new funding will help aid more than 7.9 million infants, toddlers, and students served under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, or IDEA, and adds to the ARP elementary and secondary school emergency relief allocation of $122 billion in state funding for K-12 schools, which the department announced this past March. The Department of Education released a fact sheet describing how IDEA funds within ARP can be used by states to support infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities. Exactly how that's going to be distributed, we're still waiting for some of that guidance to come out. And so I'll go to 7.2, which is our district recognitions for this evening. And we're going to start at Shared Journeys. Shared Journeys met and exceeded all of the goals. So these are the goals they set in their as a charter school for the 2021 school year. Parent satisfaction survey results increased in overall parent satisfaction and in how my child is learning. And Jenny Zalazinski and Danny Haben and Lisa Kohler received the Children in Media certification, as well as developing leadership skills in children, those two certifications, and then also the role of teachers to renew their child care licenses. At Franklin Elementary, parent satisfaction results increased in overall parent satisfaction, and individual items, staff concern for children, and recommending Franklin to other families. And that's one we've been working hard at, so we're really proud to see that happen at Franklin. And then at Franklin, the PTA worked in collaboration with Franklin staff to earn over $6,000 to bring a new playground structure to the school. At Pershing Elementary, special thanks to Eileen Alt for completing their resource inventory. From Communication and Community Relations, special thanks to Tess Thomas for her work in designing, implementing, and launching our new district website. Thanks to her expertise and hard work, we have a website with a more modern, interactive design that better reflects the great things happening in our schools. And from West Allis, West Milwaukee School District announces the RTI Recognized Schools. So the Wisconsin RTI Center Recognized Schools program celebrates school progress and expanding, refining, and sustaining implementation of both PBIS, so that's behavior, and RTI, reading and math. So schools are recognized at the bronze, silver, gold, or platinum level in the content areas of reading, mathematics, and behavior. And so you see the list of schools, and we haven't had this many schools recognized for quite a long time. And the fact that so many are recognized for behavior, it's an area where, it's Deidre and her team have put a lot of energy in our SEL work and using panorama data. And so you start to see some of the recognition that is evidence that we're making some progress. So we're just really proud of all of the schools in a really challenging year. We're still being recognized for their work either in behavior, reading, or math. So we want to thank all of those schools and the staff for their hard work there. So 7.3, just a couple updates from me, just first responding to public comments from our June 28th meeting. So we had a member of the public inquired about why we continue to use WIA Trust for our health insurance. And we did respond to that particular inquiry via email on June 28th. But in short, WIA, in our last renewal, so we renew our health insurance every 2 years, right? So in our last renewal, they offered a 1.5% increase when average increases in our area, not only for education, but just for everybody in general, were in double digits. And they offered a rate cap of not more than 8% for the second year. And our health plan goes on a calendar year, not a school year. And so with those kind of numbers, we felt, and the board felt at the time, it made a lot of sense to stay with WIA. They've been a really good partner for us. And it's also a dynamic of whenever you change your health plan, employees tend to not like that because it's just a tough experience to change cards and providers sometimes and those kind of things. But also, we has been instrumental in the implementation of our wellness center, and that helps us manage chronic illness and walk-in clinic costs because it really serves as our own walk-in clinic. But even with this, I think it's important that I note we do explore cost-saving options with each renewal opportunity. And if the board, directs us to go to, out to bid, we'll consider other providers as well. So that's just how we kind of have continued with we up until this point, but it doesn't mean it's a relationship that goes on forever. That same member of the public indicated that since enrollment is declining, the tax levy and budget should decline. And I want to make really clear that's not necessarily the case. Because just like for everybody else, for us, costs for food, fuel, heating, electricity, those things go up every year. And then the formula which results in a tax levy is very complex in Wisconsin, and it's influenced by state budget decisions as well as changes in local property equalized value. So it is possible that our budget actually goes down and the portion of a property owner's tax bill for schools could go up because of those various factors, right? So the budget may or may not go down based on declining enrollment because of various factors, and even if the budget does go down, individual property tax bills, school portion of it could go up. That member of the public also submitted a copy of the U.S. Constitution for the record and encouraged us to read it. And I just want to ensure the board and everyone that's listening that myself, as a teacher licensed in the state of Wisconsin to teach U.S. history, government, and civics, I actually read and thoroughly studied the Constitution, and as all of you know, the board takes an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. I think it's important that we point those things out. We had a different member of the public, and we've already actually responded to this at the beginning of public comments this evening, inquired about have we ordered books from Ibram Kendi, and obviously the answer is yes. But I want to point out these are not texts used with students, but we do feel it's important for our teachers and leaders and myself that we study various theories to help us better understand the dynamics that shape our country and world in order to best prepare students to enter it, right? So I think it's important for us to have that background knowledge of what these theories are attempting to teach. And again, that documentation was forwarded earlier today. We had a number of public comments at our last meeting received regarding changing our mask requirements, as we did a couple again this evening. That'll be discussed again on August 9th. And then we had a member of the community comment in support of our equity work and described how our approach is helping his students in particular and other students succeed. And what I really appreciate is just the level of understanding of our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that was expressed through that comment. And then just a couple general updates from me. So this is the hiring season for school districts. So we're in the midst of, and the employment summary will come up shortly. And so it's a competitive marketplace. And so we're really struggling with what we define as difficult to fill positions. And so we've started to offer some incentives to try to attract folks to commit to work here, but still trying to manage within kind of our new salary system and within the budget, right? So trying not to throw things off too far, but we have to compete a little bit. And the areas that are most difficult to fill are almost anything in special education, career tech ed, high school math and physics, school psychologists are the most difficult. And we're even struggling a little bit with school counselors now. And so that's going to be ongoing work. There's just a general churn in the market. We've had, employees that we've hired from another district that, 3 weeks later call and say, I'm leaving because now I'm going to Elbrook, right? So they will accept a position and keep looking for a better opportunity. And so it's just the dynamic of where we are at this time of year. And then as we look forward, we're planning an exciting and really work hard as a completely student-focused opening to our new school year. After everything we've kind of been through, we want to launch with students presenting on learner panels, doing public demonstrations of learning, serving as speakers, as performers. We're going to have a piece come out of the summer theater program. And it really is about having the student voice help move our vision of equity through deeper learning forward. And our keynote speaker, we usually hire, an adult that's a big name speaker that comes in to support us and get us excited. It's actually a young lady from Flint, Michigan that's coming to speak. And she found kind of her voice and her activism in her community during the Flint water crisis. So we're really looking forward to welcoming her and having students really inspire all of us as we launch the new school year. So I thank you, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lexman. We'll move on to 8.1, the review of the board calendar. Tonight, Monday, July 12th, we have our regular Board of Education meeting. Next Monday, July 19th at 6 p.m., we will have a board workshop meeting on the facility planning FACT team. Monday, July 26th at 6 p.m., we will have another regular Board of Education meeting. And Monday, August 2nd at 6 p.m., we will have our second board workshop meeting for facility planning with the FACT team. Next, we will move to 8.2, which is our board committee report, which will be our Employment and Culture Committee, which I will give that update. We met on July 12th, and as a committee, we met on Tuesday, June 22nd. At this meeting, we discussed the planning for workshops on professional conduct tied to board policy. The idea comes out of the climate analysis completed at West Milwaukee Intermediate, where we learned that few employees were aware of the policy that articulates professional conduct expectations. When we reviewed the results of the analysis, we thought it made sense that we'd sponsor some workshops on this topic for all employees, not just at West, and these will take place in the fall. We also discussed the change to the reduction in force matrix, which the board approved at the June 28th meeting. We discussed an update on the teacher compensation model, and the communications are being prepared for the start of the school year. Jeff Thompson and Caitlin Windler have been working on this together. Finally, we also created a list of topics of interest for upcoming meetings. Some of those include childcare for employees, HRA for retirees, draft policy revisions, employee engagement survey results, onboarding and teacher mentoring process, teachers in district level committees on strategic plan, and maternity/paternity leave. We will be meeting again in a couple weeks, and we'll share that report next month. Moving forward to 8.3, board and community events. Does anybody have anything to share at this time? Jeff?
I would just like to give a shout out to the West Allis Events Committee and Shelley Strasser and her team. The 4th of July parade was very well done, and the comments I heard from citizens is one of the best they've seen in years. So I'd like to pass those comments on to that group of people that organized it and put the whole thing on.
Nice.
Okay. We will move on to our consent agenda. We have 9.1, the approval of minutes, 9.2, the employment summary, and 9.3, supplementary contracts. Does anybody need any of those separated? Okay. Seeing none, I will ask for a
I don't want anything separated, but I just have a question. Why do we need to approve a report that has nothing in it?
That's a supplementary contract.
The supplemental.
Oh, it's a very good question. We probably should have taken that off the
Kind of
agenda.
confused me when I read that.
Yeah, so you don't need to,
Yeah,
there's
so-
nothing to approve. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Or
I
maybe
think-
we need to prove that there's really nothing there.
Yeah,
So I
should have
guess
caught
we'd be
that.
looking for a motion then to approve 9.1 and 9.2, seeing as we have no information on 9.3.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, and the motion has passed. And Dr. Lexman?
Yep, so if we could just take a pause here, we have Marianne Marshall, who was just approved as our new Director of Human Resources, so thank you. She's joining us via Zoom, and it's an opportunity for Marianne to introduce herself. So Marianne, if you could jump in and just share a little bit of your background and, why you're interested and excited in joining the team in West Allis, West Milwaukee.
Very nice to meet with all of you over Zoom. I am Marianne Marshall. I'm currently employed with Carthage College as the Director of Human Resources. Been in Human Resources for about 30 years. Previous to that, I worked as the HR director at the city of Beloit, as well as some local park districts in Illinois. I'm very excited to join the staff at West Alice. My degree is actually in elementary education. I taught on the first and second degree level, so I'm looking forward to getting back to my roots.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we will move forward to our action items. All right. First, we have 10.1, the 2021-2022 Academic Standards Adoption. Ms. Reimer?
Good evening, everyone. This is an annual adoption for us, so each year we align the work that we're doing typically on the nationally recommended standards or the state recommended standards. For us, there have been no changes from last year to this year. There are new standards that are recommended in the area of English Language Arts from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, but we have not yet taken the time to investigate all of those to align our work to those. So really this is one with no difference between last year and this year, and an annual item for our board to approve.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. We'll move forward to 10.2, the 2021-2022 Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook.
Yes, so this is also an annual item for us. Last year was the first year that we decided to bring the Rights and Responsibilities Handbook forward to our board for adoption. In this next year, so this is our second year of actually bringing it forward, but it will be an annual item going forward. I shared it with the board last week. Our lawyers did get it back to us today with some revisions. As I shared in our update, the only differences between last year's to this year's are two kind of important things, some updates around our Neola policies, so that the language in our Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook has now been updated to reflect the new policies that we've adopted through Neola and the statutory language that goes with those. As well as some formatting that our attorneys had recommended around all the new Title IX requirements that were new to us at this time last year, so that's just had some refinement in the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. And then the other difference between last year's handbook and this year's handbook that we think is really important is just an inclusion of the pronouns they and their in the course of how we describe our students. So all of the references that used to say he and she now say he, she, and they, or his, hers, and theirs, which is a far more inclusive terminology for our entire community. And we thought that was an important update to bring forward in alignment with our equity beliefs. As going into the next year, sorry, one more quick thing, Amy, and then I'll take your question. We are also, our code of conduct has now been in place for 5 years, and so it is time to gather a committee and just take a really hard look at it and a refresh and make sure that it is still the items that we want to stand behind and the things that we know we need to uphold as part of our code of conduct. And so that'll be work that we take on in the course of this next year. So we may see some more significant changes to the handbook as we review that with a committee throughout the course of this year and perhaps propose some changes going into next year. Now,
I don't have a question, just a comment. Under the principal information, I believe West Milwaukee, her last name is Bergman, right? It says Bergma.
oh,
So,
I will tell
I
that
know,
to Tess.
it's not a big
Tess-
thing, but-
No, it is, yeah, Tess went through and updated those for me, but I will ask her to fix that. So thanks for catching that, Amy.
Otherwise, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a question. The Title IX, sexual harassment, item B, where it talks about the reasonable person, is that the language that comes from the lawyers?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole section was specifically drafted by our attorneys and shared with me as written.
Okay. It seems kind of restrictive for people when it's starting from a place where the person is unreasonable because they're making an accusation. So, okay.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions or comments, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
All right, and finally, we have 10.3, our 2021-2022 school fees. Ms. Windler.
Thank you. So this one is also an annual item and is pretty straightforward this year because the fees are not changing from last year to the 21-22 school year. The one change that you will see from last year to this, well, actually last year, staying the same. Food service has no fees for breakfast or lunch for students. And that is basically an extension of a federal program. Our summer program is extended throughout the school year for the 21-22 school year. So there are no fees for breakfast or lunch for students. But it is important to note that if a student would have qualified for free or reduced meals, that they still would need to fill out that free and reduced form and the sharing information form, which will allow us to reduce or waive their school fees. And in addition to the school fees portion, it is important for other funding. So for example, our title funding, to have an accurate percentage of our free and reduced families in order to receive the maximum amount of funding that we would be eligible for. So although the meals are free, it's still very important that our families are filling those forms out. It'll still be part of registration, and that's why it's a little bit confusing because the meals are free, but that's why those packets are still part of the registration forms. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Well, I know in the past that it's been difficult to get parents to fill out the forms, and if the breakfast and lunch are free now, how are we doing anything different to make sure that those forms get filled out?
That's a good question. So we have a new food service administrative assistant, and so I've been working closely with her. She just started a week or two ago on the importance of communicating this information. So she's kind of our liaison between our school secretaries, our school communities, and the food service processing application office, essentially. And so we've been working, that was one of the initial things I talked about, is that this is super important for our school district, which in turn goes back to our students in our classrooms. So we're working through sharing that information through our new food service admin assistant, as well as other means with our schools to make sure that everybody understands the importance of filling those forms out.
It's also, I think, maybe an opportunity for Amanda Stewart, our new Director of Communication, to see, if there's some creative communication. I mean, we can't offer incentives, you can't do lotteries, you can't do any of those kind of things, but I think creative communication maybe helps as well.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 10.3 passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that does finish up our agenda for this evening, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Have a good night, everybody. The meeting is ending.